Today I have a very exciting pond update for you guys. I've been looking forward to shooting this video from the minute I knew I was partnering with RPS to bring this solar powered well pump setup to this pond. So if you're new here, I'm going to give you guys a quick recap of what's been going on with this pond. And for you returning viewers, as I pan around, try to figure out how much water has been added to this pond in the last 30 days. It's pretty darn impressive. So we dug this pond in the summer of 2019. And it is a fully excavated pond, meaning it has no dam. Effectively a giant cereal bowl in the ground. And after 5 years, this pond has never been full. We still needed about 28 inches of water as of the end of August. So that's why we have this solar powered well pump. We drilled a dedicated well for the pond right up here. 5-inch casing, 186 feet deep. It's producing about 40 gallons a minute. Then we set up our solar array and well pump from RPS Solar Pumps. And this thing has been absolutely incredible. What you're looking at flowing out of there right now is about 22 gallons a minute, all from the sun. And before I show you guys what Adam from Hometown Acres likes to call the water level marking indicator, I call it a stick, I wanted to show you this cut I cleaned up in my previous video. This right here will give you a sense of how much water's come in here, because there's that pipe that we were talking about last time, and the water was about right here, I believe, when we closed that video up. This thing's starting to look really big. So how much has been added? Survey says about 10 inches. As you can see the 1 foot hash mark there. I got hash marks every 2 inches on that stick there. So we've added 10 inches of water. So over the last 4 weeks, we've added 10 inches of water to this pond. And that's good for about 271,000 gallons of water. And as you look around here, you can certainly see the water has crept up the shoreline. Mostly evidenced by all the grass that is now in the water. It was not previously growing in the water. What's crazy is this thing's starting to look so big, but we still need another 18 inches of water. When we started this process, we said we needed about 28 to get to the top of that overflow. And wow, that's going to be impressive when it's all said and done. Some of you may be asking, okay, Adam, what was your weather like over that period of time? How much rain did you get? Well, not much. We just picked up a little under 3/4 of an inch last week. But for the first 2 or 3 weeks of that window of time, it was about 90 to 95 degrees every single day. And we had plenty of sunshine to keep the pump running. But at those temperatures and low humidity, we were seeing a significant amount of evaporation. However, what's crazy is that in that time, that 2-week period, we did see the pond come up about an inch or two. So at a period in time where evaporation was likely very, very high, this pump was putting out enough water to be able to increase the volume of the pond. And answering that question was a huge one for me. That's why we have this. It's to keep up with evaporation. After every winter and spring, if we could keep that water in here from evaporating, then we'd have no issues and this pond would have been full years ago. And that already has proven that this can keep up with evaporation and add water to the pond all at the same time. And once that box was checked, as I like to do, I then decided to put the screws to this thing and, well, run another test. So we confirmed that this thing can keep up with evaporation and, in fact, outpace evaporation. The next question was, well, what can my well do? They said 40 gallons a minute. Great. But for how long can we keep that going? What's the recharge rate? I don't know. This pump's never been run before. So, as we discussed in an earlier video, I was working on getting my generator going. And I did, in fact, get the GFCI eliminated. And we started night pumping. So we were solar pumping during the day, and at night we were using the generator to power this thing. And you can see my makeshift little waterproofer there in case we had some overnight rains. I had some pallets wrapped in house wrap over here to set on the sides. So I went from pumping maybe 6 to 8 hours a day based upon the sun to pumping like 18 hours a day. I was shocked to find that that generator on a full tank of gas would actually run for 12 plus hours. I actually used that generator when I built my house, and we had a 5-gallon air compressor hooked up to it, and it would only run for about 5 or 6 hours. Well, this pump doesn't take near the electricity that a 5-gallon air compressor does. There's a noteworthy point. I don't know if you guys can see the stake. If you guys remember the stakes that were floating around here, like when I was installing everything, and look at the footprints too that are way out there from the boys fishing this summer when they were walking around the edge of the pond. That stake is now about 3 inches underwater. So like I said, I knew the solar pump itself was fine, and I wanted to test the abilities of the well itself, i.e. pumping about 18 hours a day. And it kept up just fine. Every time I would come out here, this thing was still putting out 22 plus gallons a minute. And that's even after 18 hours of full runtime. Here's another shot of the cut I cleaned up in that previous video. I did hand dig a lot of this stuff out. You guys can see how deep it is underneath that pipe. I opted not to turn anything up, but what's crazy though is I'm gonna have to cap the back of that sooner rather than later based upon how this is coming up. Still needing another 18 inches of water. The water line should come up this bank pretty high. And as you look down this way, you can certainly see where the grass is and where kind of the rough edge of the pond has always been since day one of excavation. Kind of this dirt rim right here. So a lot more surface area to fill up and a lot more water to be added. Another good water marking point here for you guys is that if you remember when I put that stake in, the bottom of that stake was literally at the edge of the water. So we have added already, what is that, 5-6 feet, at least right there, probably more like 7 or 8 if you come back this way, to the width of the pond right there. And it's, you know, fairly shallow right here. Another one is that, do you see that cinder block right beyond where the water's coming in? That's the cinder block that pipe was resting on, but I had to actually scoot the pipe back and put it on this set of cinder blocks because the head was underwater, and I like to be able to pull out here and see it from far away. And again, the grand plan for this whole setup out here is to not have this pipe feeding into the water like it is today, but rather we're gonna mount up a bunch of dirt right here, elevate this, and have the pipe come out at said elevation and create a hardscape with a waterfall / stream that goes down into the pond. So this won't live here forever. It probably will the rest of this calendar year. I won't do this until next spring. I'd like to wait and make sure I know where the water level is before I build anything that's permanent out here. And as this water level continues to rise, it's going to create more projects. Need a better way to moor the back of this dock up to the land. Going to lose, I don't know, probably another 6 to 8 feet of beach going up that way, so I may have to expand the beach backwards, and when it's full we can finally do riprap all around the outside of this thing. A lot of projects, but fun projects. And yes, I'm very excited right now with where we're at, but I'm more excited because I know that this system works and I know where we're going. The pond, I don't think has ever been this full in September. However, if you look at the overflow and you see the rope kind of wrapped around there, that's about as high as the water's ever been at any given point in time. It was either in the spring of 23 or 24 when our water level was right up to that rope. And you can kind of see the dirt on there. You expect that in the spring, right? The winter thaw, spring rains brings it up, and then we see it drain down over the summer. No longer will that be the case. Actually, that's the case. To see this thing that full or fuller in October of next year, it's gonna be pretty awesome. And I think I had said originally in one of my videos, I guessed maybe December 4th. I'll tell you what, with a couple big rains and some sunny days, I'm not so sure won't be full long before that. And it's really anyone's guess, even my own, whether I continue to run the generator at night or not. It kind of became a little bit of a game to see if I could almost keep this thing running 24 hours a day or not. Here's a shot at the back of that pipe. That's gonna have to be closed up sooner rather than later. So be it. We'll still have that standpipe there to pump into the pond next spring. What's crazy is the pond's probably gonna be full, and we'll either be using the pond as a conduit to get water away from the property by way of the overflow, or we could just abandon this and somehow, you know, cut a ditch and swale it off the property. If a solar powered pump setup is something you've been on the fence about for your pond, don't be. They obviously sized this thing appropriately because, like I said, we were outpacing evaporation when it was 95 degrees and about 60% humidity. Prime conditions for evaporation, and we were putting more water in than was going out. So if anyone out there has questions about this setup, please do leave them down below in the comments. Happy to answer them. I will also put a link to RPS's website down below. Feel free to check them out, guys. They will spec you a pump free of charge, no obligations. If you're just curious of what size you may need based upon your climate zone, calculate evaporation for you, and spec the size of the pump that you would need. Couldn't be more excited. There is a float switch that can be wired to this controller, so it will stop the pump if the pond is full. Obviously at some point we'll need to open up the overflow over there, which, if you remember, has been closed for about 4 years because we've never had it full. So we'll see what all this area here holds next spring, but as I kind of stop and think about it, I don't know that I even want to put the float switch on here. This thing is producing enough water that a stream running into this thing would sound really nice, pumping 22 plus gallons a minute into the water. And if the pond's full and it shuts off, the stream goes away. So what I'll likely do is just let this thing run whenever the sun's out. Yes, we'll be cycling water in and out of the pond, but my overflow can pull away more than 22 gallons a minute. So let's just let this thing go. What do you guys think? Still lots to figure out, and at this point I'm kind of rambling in the video, so I'll cut it off here, but you guys will certainly have another update on this system as we approach full, if not before. So hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.